Hey, Crawl Spacers, you demanded it. The man, the myth, the legend is back for Spider History. And JR, we're going to make it rain tonight, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. But first, let me dust all the cobwebs off. I haven't done a spider history in a while. And, just don't know if I still have it. But, let me get the old muscles working.
Well, technically, a crawl space under your house has a lot of cobwebs, etc. So it's appropriate for the evening.
Yeah.
So the fans have missed you.
You're being generous, right?
I forwarded you several emails, several messages.
Oh, you did? Oh,
well, hell, fans, he didn't see it.
Did you send it to the Gmail account?
No, I sent it to your OnlyFans account. What do you think I sent it to?
Which I don't read either. Oh my Lord. No, folks. Things have a lot going on. Work's getting harder, believe it or not. I should be winding down, but kids.
This one, the fans did demand. Didn't they ask for this one last year?
I'm not sure if they asked for rain, to be honest.
I think I remember it.
It's possible they did, but there were a couple other things that have happened that kind of brought it up to the forefront for me. So whether you did or not, it's fortuitous. You're going to get
Comet
it.
says the fans demand it. Hornacek says it's like rain on your wedding day. We have a heart for you. Hornacek, the fans have missed JR. We haven't seen him since last night.
Have to take a swig of Mountain Dew.
Padre says, why the heck are you discussing it? It's awful.
It has some moments.
Another great episode. So
it is awful, but it does have some moments.
All right. So let's start. Here is the cover. A Spider-Man hugging the tombstone of Mary Jane, and all done by Carrie Anders, right?
Apparently so.
And penciled, yeah.
So and
take me through it.
That's interesting. I mean, you showed that one because I have the alternate cover, which is him hugging the gravestone with his black costume.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, so there were
back in 2006. I think this when this came out. Is it 2006? Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it was. It came out late 2006, early 2007. With I think the first one was dated had a street date of February 2007. So we're talking what 15, 16, going on 17 years now.
That is incredible. That's crazy.
And another reason one reason I'm bringing this one up now is there was a sequel announced fairly recently, which is supposed to be the sequel to Spider-Man's most notorious story.
Yep.
There's one line in particular I think is why it gets a lot of the grief it does, and it is a pretty tacky.
It's gross. It's still discussed. It's probably what it's most known for.
Yeah, it's got some imagery which isn't very pleasant. In fact, that brings me to a story, and I've told this story before a long time ago in a different setting, but back when Spencer was, this was after it came out, but it was in the bargain bin now, Rain was, but I don't know if he 8, 9 years old. Okay. So anyway, he's going through the bargain boxes and, and I'm letting him, pick out comics to buy and, he starts picking out the Spider-Man and he picks out a couple of the Rains, which of course doesn't bother, my mother raised me on horror movies and science fiction and stuff, so none of that bothered me and none of it bothered my kids either. Rachel, I gave the chance when she was little, said, Rachel, you want to go see the animated King and I movie or you want to go see the X-Files movie? And without hesitation, she went X-Files. So that's my kids. But anyway, there's this other father there with his similarly aged son. And he sees my son going through Rain. And then he turns to me and he says, you might want to go through that first before you let your son read it. And I just about gave him one of the most disgusting. It's like, I said, I can't believe that this guy whose advice I didn't ask for is telling me to JR,
the internet's full of people that'll give you advice.
Oh, I know that, but it's like he's about whether or not my son should read particular Spider-Man comic book. So, man, anyway.
Hey, real quick, Milo, thank you for the super chat. My favorite show is on right now. Get in.
Oh, so, where is it?
I don't know what show he's watching, but we're doing history.
Yeah, I was about to say, what channel is it on? I'll turn it on.
Hey, we're flipping it right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, obviously, this is Marvel's and Carrie Andrews' answer to Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. This is the Dark Knight Returns for Spider-Man. And this is it has a lot of the same themes, but it's not as good. And the art, I don't know if Andrews draws like this all the time. I don't.
He is kind of a chameleon, in my opinion. He's done some covers that are really gorgeous. His interiors, I've not really been a fan of.
Yeah, but so I'm not familiar with his style, to be honest. But if you don't know his style, when you open the book, you think he's trying to imitate Frank Miller. In fact, there's an homage to Miller later on early in one of the books. But anyway, so to set the stage, we're 30 years in the future. All right. And New York City is essentially a totalitarian society ruled by an autocratic mayor. I don't know how that happens independently of everything else in the rest of the country, but that's one of the little problems we have. Rain, which is the title of the book, Spider-Man Rain, actually has a double meaning. The background, it is always raining. The atmosphere is always dark and moody and raining, and also the rain is the name for the. They're not the police force, but they're essentially the thugs that the mayor uses to maintain law and order in the city. They're called the Rain as well. Yeah. Why? Absolutely no idea. But so anyway, in this totalitarian society, supposedly it's been 30 years since the last super terrorist attack and 10 years since the last super powered crime. And it's all due to the wonderful Mayor Waters, who's made the city safe. We don't know how, just take the word for it. The city's safer because of him. But the threat of super crime and super terrorism is always lurking. So the city is going to, in a few days, is going to initiate the Web, WEBB, the Web, which is going to throw a shield of sorts over New York City, and it will be permanently safe from super terrorist and super terrorist crime. Of course, I'm thinking, did this mayor never read Stephen King's Under the Dome?
Under the Dome, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
you've even seen the show, yeah.
No, yeah, it's like, and so I'm thinking, but in a superhero story or a science fiction movie, whenever a new piece of technology is at the center of the setup, that nothing can go wrong here. So anyway,
here's
also in the background, we have like these young people, kids who are basically going around, spraying graffiti and doing a little rabble rousing and everything like that. So that just kind of in a nutshell gives you a little hint of the society that we're dealing with. And then we finally meet the Peter Parker of this time, 30 years hence. And he is a weak, weathered, beaten down old man, he is working in a flower shop. I mean, and the bow tie
flower shop.
He's working in a flower shop, tacky bow tie to match. I mean, looking absolutely as pathetic as possible. Yeah. And what has just happened is he's screwed up another order the second time in 2 weeks. This time it was a wedding. The customers came in and said, well, you ordered cream roses instead of white roses, so the whole wedding is ruined. And we're not going to pay for it. So needless to say, the proprietor is not happy with this and fires Peter. And Peter's rather upset. Of course, obviously he's got rent to pay, and he refers to having a wife at home. All right. Well, we've kind of been given a hint that might not be true. So, as he says, no money, no job, no dignity, just like the old times. And to compound his bad luck, he gets run over by one of the kids running from the rain, because earlier, as you saw, they were spraying graffiti. The rain caught him, and the rain started going after him. Occasionally tasing one, I mean, so you can just see the thrill they get out of tasing little kids, but Peter gets knocked down, but then he sees the rain starting to manhandle this kid, and he says, hey, wait a minute. But for his trouble, he gets one of the rain's elbows in the face, gets knocked down, and gets his shoulder separated. So I mean,
that's for help. That's what happens when you help out, Peter.
Yeah. But the thing is, and there's always a and then there's this little girl. Okay, now she is going to be one of the major protagonists of the story, and she says, "How could you let them take him? What, we've got nobody to help us. How could you? Sounding like doing our best, Greta Thunberg. Shame on you." And I'm thinking, well, what the hell did you expect from a 60-something-year-old man against a football team? That just really didn't make any sense. But anyway, so then we get, and this is another. If you recall the Dark Knight Returns, part of the narrative was the media was a presence all the time in Dark Knight Returns. Well, in this story, we get these two recurring journalists, and to call them journalists is the guy who looks like a frozen face Jimmy Olsen, and see the expression never changes. I mean, basically I guess what Andrews just did was just cut and pasting throughout several scenes. The guy never changes expression. And a lot of people don't have any eyes. See, they don't have any eyes. But anyway, and what they are, this is the Daily Bugle Network, but we'll find out Jonah doesn't own the Bugle anymore. And they're not really reporters. They're just government shills. They're sycophants. And these are the only media people we see, which makes me wonder, wow, in New York City, you can't get another channel,
In 30 years. Can't you something else?
This is one of the things of the story is I think there's just very poor world building. It's just like, accept this world, accept it as the way it is, and that's it. It's like, well, no, that's I'm sorry, As somebody yesterday tried to remind me when I was complaining about how New York was not accurately portrayed, and somebody was trying to remind me that we're talking about a green girl and a guy who crawls.
That was me.
Oh, but no wonder I tuned it out. I mean, come on, like I've always said, I mean, come on, we accept a guy who bitten by a radioactive spider who gets spider powers. We accept that. So we're kind of in for a penny, but there's
I agree with what you're saying. There's just so much you can believe. You can't believe that there's more than just one channel. There's not more than one channel.
That's all you see. And again, everybody has left New York, well, I'll get, actually I'll touch on that later, but anyway, the mayor is, like I said, it's an authority, and he's going to throw the web over New York City, and everybody's going to be safe. And it's like, how in the world are you going to do this? What has brought New York to this? Why are you in power? What's going on? We don't have any like events setting it up. Like we're not seeing like a devastating attack that killed people. In fact, they're saying like it's been 10 years since the last superpowered incident. So why do you need the web? If you've been keeping the streets safe with your authoritarian police force and all the superheroes and villains have been, and you haven't seen them in 10 years, why do you need the web? So that's just kind of another thing that bugs me. But anyway, the reporter who looks like a stone Jimmy Olsen is named Miller Jansen. And as you know from your Dark Knight, you Dark Knight fans, the writers of the co-creators were Frank Miller and Klaus Janson.
There you go.
So now I'm not sure the woman is named Var Jones. And I'm guessing that Var is a reference to Lynn Varley, who is Frank Miller's wife and who was the colorist, who is his colorist, essentially, who works for him. So I'm assuming that I'm assuming that's a reference to Frank Miller's wife. But anyway, in 5 days, Mayor Waters is going to flip the switch. The web is going to come on and everybody is going to be safe. But one of the things that the city had to do was, in order for the web to work efficiently, they had to take down all the metal objects on top of the roofs and everything, particularly crosses and church bells. Church bells.
So symbiotes like that.
Ah, Jesus! Ladies and gentlemen,
ring a ding ding, baby.
I apologize apologize.
Oh, already? 15
yeah.
minutes in, you're apologizing for me?
Well, I
Thank you.
apologizing for you. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming most of you, the people out there, boys and girls, the fans, have read Spider-Man Reign, and there's no surprises. But this happens all the time. My build-up gets through, and I'm leading you through. I'm leading you through and building you up and helping you.
And the cornbread.
Yeah,
All right.
and then Brad, throws it to the crap.
I'm Lucy, and you're Charlie Brown.
Yeah. Anyway, now and here's then the next scene is where's Murdoch's? I don't know. We don't even know if Murdoch's still alive. I mean, that's the thing. That's really a poor thing because we don't know why everybody left. We don't know if they're dead or where, at least in like Dark Knight Returns, for example, you knew what had happened. Basically, the government had cracked down on the superheroes, and Batman and Superman have a couple lines of dialogue that explain what happened. Here, you have no idea. Okay, but anyway, the next scene is the mayor, and okay, look, see that skinny little dweeb back there. That guy is named not that desiccated person, but this skinny little dweeb, Sachs. His name is Sachs. S-A-K-S. Okay, he's the mayor's right-hand man. He's going to be very important. Now you can go to the desiccated guy. Okay, so this guy is sitting here, and he's obviously, the mayor has had him in prison for the last 10 years, and he's been feeding him, and he's been fed only via an intravenous drip. So, the mayor is tormenting him by eating solid food and putting solid food in front of him. And basically, and this guy has he's just piles of skin on bones. They never say who he is.
Oh, I know. I'm guessing.
But no, I mean, but you do know who he is, right, Brad? Go ahead.
It would be Kingpin, right?
It's the Kingpin.
Right.
But the thing is, they don't say that, and they had to admit it they had to say it in, like in like the letters page of some or an interview or something. Yeah, that's a Kingpin. We just didn't say who it was.
Duh.
And you don't see him in the story again. So, I don't know if, for example, that Andrews was already setting up a sequel.
We will find out.
But or again, one of those things where the story was poorly plotted and planned out, and it's like, oh crap, I don't have enough time to resolve this. I have no idea. But anyway, but the Kingpin's coming back in the sequel. But like I said, this is the Kingpin, but we weren't told it was the Kingpin at the time. So it's just this very odd one-page scene with no other reference, and you're sitting there going, what the blank is this for? So anyway, okay, we go back to Peter's miserable little apartment, and he's cooking himself up some gruel, and he's obviously talking to Mary Jane, and she's silent, and so he starts screaming at her. Go up one more. I think we actually quote unquote see Mary Jane.
Up?
Yeah, go up a little bit.
As far as I can go up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, maybe it's the next page. I don't know. That might be the.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah, there she is. Okay, now something's wrong already. One, she looks like skin and bones. But then but anybody who's reading this knows she ain't there. She's not there. She's dead. So that's not really much of a surprise there. So Peter is either hallucinating, and he does this all through the story. He's either hallucinating or he's just starting to go crazy. So Mayor Waters then has a conference where he's going to announce, he says, all these super terrorists are going to try to shut down the web before we can turn it on. So I am suspending the electoral process. He's postponing all the elections. And it's because your safety is more important than outdated government tradition. So I'm sitting there. What the, how, no, but how is this happening? How can this be happening without any additional context? But, Andrews is making a political statement. This actually came out very close to the time of Civil War, I believe. Mm-hmm. So the writers wanted to, I don't know. A lot of writers were obsessed with this idea that everybody, all of you people, you were all sheep and you were going to willingly give up your freedom to be safe. I don't know who said that. I don't know anyone who believes that, but the writers at Marvel at the time were convinced that in fact, Spider-Man gives a big speech about it but that you are willing to give up all your freedoms to be safe. So that's kind of the crux of this story. And again, it's one of those things like where it just leaves me scratching my head saying, how did this world come? And it distracts from the story because I'm sitting there thinking, how did this world come into being? It's not making any sense.
Real quick, thank you, Walter, for the super chat. Sorry for being late. I figure if JR couldn't drink something to help this lumpy age milk of a comic, I use that term loosely. I figure I would do it for him. So there you go.
Oh, well, am I? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
He says the book's old and lumpy and
well, but Mountain Dew will take care of it. Here, let me take another swig.
Oh, by the way, since we're on a Mountain Dew kick, have you seen that PepsiCo has released these in cans now? The Baja Blast Zeros.
I have
you like
not.
the Baja Blast from Taco Bell? It's very.
I've had the Baja Blast. I don't know. I'm trying to. Their flavors have left me like Purple Thunder and Voltage. They've all. It's like I want to like them, but they just don't.
Anyway, back to making it rain. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway.
Thank you, Walter.
All right.
By the way.
So anyway, we go to and yes, thank you, Walter. It's always good to hear from you. So then the scene goes to the streets where a crazy old man in a walker is just screaming. In fact, I was always thinking, rejects, liars, monkeys, meat puppets. And for those of you, and of course, I'm going to play into the hands of some of my detractors over the years and bring up Star Trek. If any of you watch The City on the Edge of Forever, where Dr. McCoy gets, accidentally injects himself with a drug that drives him crazy. And he comes into, he goes into the past and he comes out of the time portal. And that's what he's doing. He just stands in and screams, murderers, so that's what this reminded me of. So anyway, this is a crazy old man. And then while Peter is, let's see here.
Peter's dreaming.
Oh, okay. Actually, yes. Now we got to have this scene. Peter is imagining having sex with Mary Jane. Yeah. Then he decides to sit up in his bed with buck naked. And I don't know if further reprints have shown this, but go to the next page. It was kind of a controversy.
Oh, okay.
It was
that's blurred. It's blurred.
Okay, it's definitely blurred.
Thank God.
I cannot
shut us down.
I cannot. Nope. I cannot show you.
Oh, you're not blurred in your
but
comic?
It's not blurred in the original printing. You're clearly seeing his giblets.
No, you're seeing his web shooter.
Yeah, and it's like. I mean, wow. You just sit there and you go. I'm not a prude. Okay,
No.
Not in the slightest. But it's like,
what were you thinking?
I'm buying a comic book and you want to show me a 60-year-old man's, it's like, so I don't know, just somebody thinks they're being smart, funny, and clever, but when it's been reprinted and on digital, at least it's blurred out. So I guess somebody got the message. Well, anyway, there's a knock at the door. Peter goes to it and it's the crazy old man. However, this crazy old man happens to be one J. Jonah Jameson.
Yep. How are you, my boy? Glad you put on pants.
Who's got to be? Look at that guy. If I saw that face at the door, I'd run screaming. That's terrifying. That's a Halloween mask. But that's just typical. Everybody in this book is ugly and unrecognizable. So basically, Jonah knows that Peter is Spider-Man by this time, and it's uncertain whether or not Peter is his identity has been exposed for all. There's hints that it has been, but then maybe it's not. So it's kind of fuzzy whether or not everybody knows that Peter is Spider-Man. But Jonah knows, and Jonah is wants to get him back in the game. Jonah wants him to get back in the superhero game. Yeah, Peter looks over to Jonah. And what's funny is because Jonah says, I didn't think you could age. Thought you'd be 20 forever. Which to me, and this is another reason why, I guess symbolically, it's supposed to also be that the years have just weighed so heavily on him. But I always thought Peter would age slower than everybody else. I just thought he would, like, people like him and Osborn who have their blood has regenerative powers. I just thought, I didn't think he'd live to be like 200 or 300, but I figured he would age much slower. In fact,
Wolverine.
Well, Wolverine's virtually immortal, isn't he?
He ages very slowly.
I see.
Like he was born in the 1800s.
Yeah. So I don't figure Peter would age that slowly, but I would think that, he'd probably live to be like 130, something like that. But the best story I saw on that, though, was, or not the best story, but most representative of what I thought would happen to Peter is a backup story that I believe J.M. DeMatteis wrote, where there's this old man talking to his like great grandson. And it turns out that it's Spider-Man, but this Spider, and he got outed and he's in witness protection or whatever, but he refers to everybody, his wife being dead and, and he's got a great grandchild or whatever. But this, to me, that illustrates, he's going to age much slower. He's going to outlive, and that's part of the tragedy. He's going to outlive everybody he loves. So even if he protects them through life, he's still going to outlive everybody, and he's going to be left alone. But anyway, that's so. But Peter doesn't want to have anything to do with Jonah. Shuts the door in his face, but Jonah leaves him a package, which turns out to be one of Peter's old cameras, and it happens to be wrapped in a black cloth. And this is kind of funny though too. One of my cameras left behind is their film inside. And I haven't taken a snapshot in a decade. Well, it's funny. This is 2000, written in 2000. This is supposed to be 30 years in the future. At that time, it'd be in the between 2030s. We don't use film now anymore. Right now, do we? How long has it been since you took a picture?
Ever since I got an iPhone, I've not done it.
I know. So, so actually not long after this time, essentially film cameras were almost obsolete. At least for the common person, at least for the I don't know. I'm sure that it still is used. But anyway, but
it's just much. It's all digital almost.
Yeah. It's just kind of funny that like even now, before we reach that future, everything is digital. But anyway, it's wrapped in a black cloth. And then when Peter sees what the cloth is, he starts going spastic and sweating and, oh my God. All right. So anyway, Jonah's not done, causing trouble. So he takes his walker out and he starts bashing a car, with his walker, crazy old man, and the rain catch up with him and start
beating him up.
And Jonah, originally they don't want to, but Jonah decides to pick a fight with them. So they decide to teach him some manners. And then up in the sky.
Is it a bird? Is it a senior citizen?
No, it's some
Spider-Man
old man
in his
underwear and a Spider-Man mask.
Is he just floating there? Or is he
floating?
Is it Jesus?
There's his apartment building, so I'm assuming he just jumped off his apartment building, and but he's there in his underwear and his socks, and it's just like.
Well, the alternative of the uncanny nude Spider-Man is much better. It's not as. What am I saying? It's the alternative is better. What the hell, JR?
Well, I don't know. We don't want to see his giblets anyway. But it's like
there's diaper man.
Yeah, there you go.
What's on his arms? What's on that? Oh, it's a cast.
What? No, he broke his. Yeah, I thought that he separated his shoulder because it said he heard his shoulder pop. But I don't know. Maybe he broke his arm or something. But it obviously happened in that confrontation with the rain.
Yep.
But like I said, that's one of the things that confused me. He said it was his shoulder. But anyway,
check out these socks, JR.
Yeah, I know. It's
pull them up, brother.
It's like, it's like I guess why he was so old and frail he couldn't pull up his damn socks.
I don't know. He's not that old and frail. Look at this.
Yeah, he's beating up the rain, but he can't pull up his own socks.
Wizard of Oz socks, says Milo.
Well, those are the socks Norman Osborn wears under his boots, because Norman's got like little boots with the little pointy whatever. So those are probably like Norman socks. So anyway, so Spider-Man, so he's having he's taking down the rain pretty good. And the rain one of them says, "We chased your kind out of this city a long time ago." one of the few hints of what went on. But anyway, and earlier Jonah had said that Robbie and everybody else had left the city, and that he and Peter were the only two stupid enough to remain. Why did they leave the city? I'm assuming because it became a totalitarian society. But is it just New York that's totalitarian, or is it everywhere else? Because if it's everywhere, if the whole country is under an authoritarian state, where is there to go? But again, that's not important, for any of our work. Anyway, during this fight, Peter starts having hallucinations again. And I believe what this is meant to represent is his confrontation with the original burglar who killed Uncle Ben. And actually it kind of has, it has more vibes with the first Tobey Maguire movie than it does with the comic book origin. But it's never explicitly stated, but I think this is supposed to represent his final confrontation with the burglar. The burglar falls out the window, and the cops just assume Spider-Man pushed him out. So anyway, and then also, Peter has the usual hallucinations, Aunt May, Mary Jane, Uncle Ben. Yeah, Uncle Ben's had better days, and
Jesus.
but
he got shot in the head. Jesus.
Which didn't happen in the comics. I mean,
No.
he was shot in the chest. I mean, which would have killed a 60, 70-year-old man anyway.
This is an alternate universe. So
yeah. So anyway, so he's having his usual hallucinations. Then Jonah, then he sees Jonah, and Jonah tells Peter, that, well, you were the reason I sold the Bugle years ago, because I deal in truth and you made a liar out of me. I guess by finding out that he was Spider-Man. Right. But now Jonah wants him to come back. The city needs
the fans demanded you
Yeah.
and Spider-Man to come back, JR.
And but the reason Jonah wants him to come back is they are coming. Okay. So, but Peter just slugs Jonah, just pops him, whether he's 100 years old or not. Peter clocks Jonah.
And then he walks away like he just put the suit in the trash can.
Yep. So end of chapter 1.
Chapter 1. All right.
Now, again, like I've said, I'm not caring for this story. Like I said,
mainly
because
it's so ugly. It's just such a downer. So ugly, and
it's ugly to look at. I mean, again, art is very subjective. And as I've always said, I can't draw a straight line with a straight edge. So I'm not really a good judge of somebody's artistic talent. But I just don't like this story. I mean, even The Dark Knight, I don't think was this dark. Yeah. The people are all hideous. Yeah. It's just, and like I said, I didn't expect an old Peter Parker, for example, to, have a retirement home in Florida and the Hamptons and things like that. But this wasn't, I just wasn't interested in reading yet another story where he's a beat up, broken down, broken person, and plagued by, that he's failed everybody. That, again, it's
Walter
a core
says
part.
That they're coming for a Social Security check. Yeah. That's where it's coming. All right, issue 2.
Oh, issue 2. So yeah. All right. Well, of course, somebody was taking pictures, because Jonah now has published, or it's not really published, but he's pushing illegal material, so he printed up a bunch of flyers with Spider-Man's image, that he's coming, that he's here, and that he's come back. And we see here now that, the rabble rousing children, Jonah is clearly working with them. Now the mayor is obviously upset that Spider-Man has returned, and Sax, and then when Sax starts talking about what they need to do, it's clear that Sax is the one who's really in charge. Okay. So, he's the one who's actually running things. And so he takes the mayor to, if we're going to catch the spider, we've got to release some flies. So he takes him to the prison under the building, and that's where the Sinner 6 are. Okay. Now,
Sinner.
Yeah, the Sinner 6. Now, part of the I'm assuming part of the reason is because as the story unfolds later, we'll see that 2 of the original members of the Sinister Six are not there or not part of that team anymore. They were replaced by 2 others. But so anyway, so they're going to send, and as it becomes an important plot point later, they've all got like explosive devices implanted, and if they go off the ranch, the mayor just press a button and blow them up. So, but if they bring in Spider-Man, then they'll be set free outside the web once the web is turned on, which is another thing. It's like, okay, so you turn the web on where nothing can get in and nothing can go out. It's like, does that make sense to completely cut yourself off? I mean, what are you going to do? Turn Central Park into a big garden? Is that how you're going to feed everybody? I really didn't again understand exactly the world building here. But, Peter, of course, now is panicking because now that he's been seen, he starts packing. He wants to leave town, and he's yelling at an imaginary Mary Jane to start packing. We go to Jonah.
Let me show you some of those pictures of him yelling at Mary Jane. I got to get out of here, Mary Jane. Let me shave off this
He
beard.
decides to, And again, I mean, this is pathetic. He's yelling at old man, yelling at clouds. He's just a pathetic, miserable person, and I don't like hanging around him. But anyway, we're reintroduced to this the young girl we've talked about before, and there's a young boy who says, "Hey, I noticed that you've been causing trouble like the rest of us. So hey, come on, follow me. I got something for you." And of course, but it turned creepy little boy tell him wanting you to follow him in a dark alley, but it turns out that he leads her to a church. And at the church, it's J. Jonah Jameson at the pulpit. Yep. And Jonah gives a hint, and he's got a church bell behind him. And he gives a hint that, he left the city, and then he saw the web going up, and he knew, and then he found out they were coming. So he had to come back and try to save the city. But anyway, but when the web is turned on, they will be trapped in a cage, and the devil will feast on their souls. So it all sounds like gibberish now, but it'll make sense in a couple of issues.
Is the devil in the sky?
Yeah. Okay, so the young boy who we see, who led the girl into the church. He's sitting by Jonah in a computer, and he's going to hack into the network. He's going to have. And so then the image of Spider-Man, coming back is now broadcast all over the city. And not only that, but Peter's address is put up there too. Jonah is taking some very extreme measures to get Peter to come back. So he gives out his address as well. Anyway,
apartment 51st Street West.
Yeah.
Yep. Man, wow. Even the little boy eating cereal, he sees it. Yeah.
There's no cartoons anymore. So, but then actually one of my favorite scenes in the book, and I actually kind of like this, and I wish they'd done a little more of it.
I know who
but one of Spidey's old villains has not left the city like the rest of them, or isn't dead. And he's coming back, and, he says if Spider-Man's back, he's going to need some help. So this old dude's going to help Spider-Man out. And he is none other than the Hypno Hustler.
Hypno, baby. Is that a mask? Rain is going to fall hard on that sucker.
Yeah. So
gather round, people. You got to start.
He's still got his hypnotic powers. So he puts his tape in his boom box. And
get it, Hypno.
He says New York is going to dance. And the rain starts dancing. So, it's... I like this, but then his batteries, batteries go dead.
No, Hypno,
and the rain ventilate him and blow him away.
Hypno.
Which
poor Hypno.
That's what this totalitarian society would do. I kind of hate to see. I really did kind of like that idea that there might be other. And see, this story had potential. I mean, it had potential. You can, and like when another villain who sort of comes back, it's like I begin. You begin to realize that maybe in some of these people's old age, they begin to realize that they actually had more in common with Spider-Man than they thought. But again, something that's never was never explored. But anyway, Peter is still trying to convince imaginary Mary Jane to pack and flee. And then we see the Rain outside of his apartment with a bazooka shooting a missile into his apartment. So everything goes white for 3 pages. He's imagining Mary Jane staring out the window. So,
I hate that kind of crap.
What?
I hate that kind of crap.
But anyway, during all this delusion Peter's going through, he almost unconsciously changes into Spider-Man, the black-suited Spider-Man.
Woohoo!
And he starts taking down the Rain, and you hear like, oh, the city's been safe from men in masks for 30 years, and oh my God, we haven't seen anything like this in 30 years. And again, it's kind of like, so why do you have the web? Why do you need the web then? But as you can see, the Center Six show up, and poor old Spidey is overwhelmed. But you do see that one of the members is Scorpion. So, like I said, a couple of them have been replaced, and that becomes an important element later on. So Kraven, I mean, they just, they're too much for him, Spider-Man. Beat him to a pulp. Kraven unmasked Spider-Man, and reveals him just to be a tired old man. And when all appears to be lost, and it's funny because the story actually it's almost like a meta reference to a Deus Ex Machina, the God in the Machine.
Here's your Dark Knight reference. Another one coming up. You ready? Here it is.
Yep. But this is obviously, you saw some metal rescue bashing the Center Six. So obviously Dr. Octopus has come to Spider-Man's rescue. All right. The web is turned on, and Doc Ock has taken Peter to the cemetery and dropped him at the graves of Aunt May, Uncle Ben, and Mary Jane.
Yep.
So end of chapter 2. All right.
All right, let's get to 3. Let me
Part 3. All right. Part 3 begins with Peter. He goes through a page or so of his self-pity routine, but quickly we go to the mayor's office. And here is where the story actually does kind of pick up a little bit. Jonah has been taken to the mayor's office, and he slashes, the mayor's throat with a knife, and blood spurts out. Now it's like, well, Jonah was nuts and crazy, but I mean, he's violent, he's murderous. But here's the thing. Jonah didn't expect this guy to bleed. But then he turns to Sax, and he realized, and he says, "There you are." And Sax says, "Yes." So so we don't know. And then Jonah tries to stab him, but it just goes right through, and Sax is unaffected. Again, we're getting hints here exactly what Sax is. So Anyway, so then we go back to the cemetery, and it turns out that Doc Ock is dead. And it is his
He looks dead.
It is his corpse.
The arms.
His rotting corpse still attached to the arms that came back for Spider-Man, because as Doc Ock lay dying and he saw what was happening in the world, that, the age of gods was ending. And he saw all the heroes and villains die or go away. And so before he died, he programmed his arms to go find Spider-Man. So I guess when Spider-Man reappeared, the arms woke up, carried Doc Ock's rotting corpse out, and rescued Spider-Man. Well, during this time, Doc Ock also rips Mary Jane's coffin out of the grave and breaks it open, and you see Mary Jane's corpse fall to the ground.
Making it rain.
This is just fun, boys and girls. Isn't this just fun? So
Rip
then
people out of their coffins.
And now we're coming to the notorious moment. Peter is at Mary Jane's deathbed. We have a flashback to Mary Jane's deathbed. Peter hears gunshots. She's dying. He hears gunshots, but he's got to change to Spider-Man. But even as she's dying, she's telling him to go, and she says, "Go get him, Tiger." But then we go back to the present, and now Here it is. Whoops. Yeah.
There it is. Read it to me.
The doctors didn't understand how it happened, how you had been poisoned with radioactivity, how your body slowly became riddled with cancer. I did. I am filled with radioactive blood, and not just blood, every fluid touching me, loving me. Don't stop there, Brad.
Oh, God, I want to stop there.
Oh, no, we're building the crescendo like a spider. Well, loving me killed you like a spider crawling up inside your body and laying 1,000 eggs of cancer. I killed you. All right.
Well, what's he doing? He kisses her?
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
oh, God.
or just is he imagining?
Does he bite her? What is he doing?
I don't know. Maybe she's biting him. Maybe she's the first Marvel zombie.
Oh,
I don't know.
God, stop! Make it stop.
But just like so you just sit there and you just go,
come on now.
And I paid how much for this in 2007?
Probably $3.99.
Yeah, $3.99 in 2007. Imagine what you'd pay for it now. And the only thing different about it is maybe the quality of the pages and the slightly harder stock before the cover. But anyway, now, but you can't stop reading now, folks, because we still got an issue and a half to go. All right. Well, in the interim, like I said, the web has been turned on. We go back to the mayor's office and we find out what Sax really is. It's venom. All right. And it's not just venom inhabiting somebody's body and bonded with them. It's actually venom masquerading as a human being, masquerading as Sax, impersonating him. And, he refers to Eddie, so Eddie is obviously dead, but he refers to him and,
he's the newest symbiote
and says that he's still a part of him. And he tells the mayor to initiate phase 2. And the mayor says, open the door.
Open the door.
Open the door. Now the last 2 issues had scenes that I thought would have been cool for a movie. All right. So everyone's watching the web turn on, and then they see this big strike, like a lightning strike. And then they think what they see are bodies falling from the sky. But they're not bodies. They're symbiotes, like plop, plop, plop. And then they start feasting.
Here you go. There's some symbiotes. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Everyone gets one.
They start, and like the blob, they start eating people.
Hey, let's go to the church. Maybe that'll help us.
Well, that's so she runs to the church. And the girl gets to the church and gets to the bell and starts ringing it, because apparently Jonah had said the bells would save them. So she starts ringing the bell and the symbiotes start retreating. So the kids, once that haven't been eaten by now, the kids, and I don't know how they do this, but they pick the bell up and they start carrying the bell to the tower and ringing the tower. Or ringing it in front of the tower, which is supposedly, stopping the symbiotes. But it's kind of like, wait a minute, can they all? It's just like, how can this one bell have the effect of affecting all these symbiotes? Who probably have spread all over New York by now. But anyway, that's not important, I guess. Anyway, we go back to Peter, who has now crawled inside Mary Jane's coffin.
Jesus. I'll just take a nap right here.
Yeah, so he crawls inside Mary, and so he's laying there, and he's going, I can't stand, I wish those bells would stop making noise, and for whatever reason, I guess it inspires him. But he says,
you do a costume change too.
Well, he says, go up a little bit here, because he says, the day she died, I didn't just bury her, I buried the red and blues. So he buried his original Spider-Man costume with Mary Jane.
And then he starts singing his theme song.
Which
whenever there's bang up, whenever there's a bang up. Oh, Oh,
Here
that's
comes
not
the
a good use.
Spider-Man. But it's again, that's his, that, it's just funny that that is now his. I mean, by this time we'd had the first movie, and it's funny how that became the unofficial, or actually I guess it's more or less the official theme song of Spider-Man.
It is. It is.
So
Look at this. Looks like the Juggernaut got a hold of the
yeah,
symbiote.
it's like Venom's inhabiting. Venom took over the Juggernaut. Yeah. So Venom senses that Spider-Man is coming, and the Sinner Six arrive or prepare for his arrival in the tower. And then we start seeing one of the captains of the Rain now, and he becomes an important player later on. We don't know why right now, but the thing is though, you don't recognize him, which is how bad this art is, because you don't
recognize Peter Parker even when it was modern day Peter Parker.
Right. But you should be able to recognize him, but you don't until. So anyway, that's the end. That guy. That guy's very important. Okay. So
that's issue 3. Number 4 is
the last one. Spider-Man arrives at the tower. The bell keeps ringing. The symbiotes are screaming in pain. Then Venom orders the mayor. Yeah, that was
taking a bite out of Spidey.
Yeah. So Venom
where
orders.
Were you? What's happening? The Spider-Man what? Where are you in the story? You're like
I just started basically.
Okay, so Spider-Man goes to the.
He arrives at the tower. The Center Six are getting ready for him. Venom orders the mayor to stop the noise, and the mayor relays the order to to the captain of the Rain, who he addresses as Sandman. So. And of course, the Sandman.
Mr. Sandman, please stop those bells.
He says, wait a minute, the bells are the only thing stopping all these people from being eaten. He doesn't quite realize that this is all, and it's like, and besides, it's mostly kids. You want me to kill a bunch of kids? And, the mayor goes, they're terrorists, blah, 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 blah. So Sandman, goes to the, goes into the midst of the kids, and he confronts the girl who is clearly leading the charge. And when she takes off her mask, he recognizes her as his daughter.
Oh,
yeah. And it's kind of like, really? What? I mean, there's all kinds of, you talk about plot devices. Even though Dan Slott said he didn't have any baby making parts, if you recall. But apparently he created a kid, and she turns herself into cement. All right. Well, then the rest of the Rain, just absolutely freak out because, a superpowered person is in there.
Let me show you a picture of the cement kid.
Yeah.
Sandman kid.
So they're freaking out because, again, they didn't realize that they hadn't seen superpowered people in a long time. And literally they just cut her to shreds with the bullets. And, she's all broken, and Sandman is trying to get her to fuse herself together. But she's dying. Spider-Man breaks into the tower. He confronts Electro and Hydro Man. And Hydro Man is another one of the 6 now. As you can see, Sandman is not one of the 6. Sandman's one of the captains of the Rain. For whatever reason,
hold on. What? This is Hydro Man?
Yeah, that's Hydro Man. Yeah.
It looks like an icicle.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. And when you see what happens next, it's like, why would Electro and Hydro Man ever team up? Why? Well, and then Spider-Man webs Electro and throws him right into Hydro Man.
Who saw that one coming?
And fries him both.
That's the last guy I do a team up with, man.
Yeah. It's like, God. Here, I'll just, I'll just douse gas on myself and light myself on fire and scare you, right? So, but anyway, I don't know. Spider-Man doesn't have any compunction about killing now. So these guys are obviously fried. And the Scorpion attacks, and Spider-Man kicks him out the window.
Yeah, but what kind of move is this, Spidey? It's like butt first. What are you going to hit him in
you and butts again. You and butts again.
Look at that. That is an awkward looking fight.
No. Boys and girls, go watch yesterday's show if you're a Patreon member. And, as Brad, for some reason, decides to talk about buttholes.
Hey, no, I didn't talk about.
You did. You talked about butt. Anyway, so the Scorpion gets kicked out of the window and plunges to his death. Not shedding any tears. So Sandman and then he turns to Mysterio, and of course Mysterio tries to put on an illusion that it's Mary Jane. And see, this is what obviously somebody else, other people know that Peter is Spider-Man. How else could they come up with the Mary Jane illusion? But anyway, but Peter knows what it is, and he he crushes Mysterio's face, and he does have a good line. He says, "Never dress up like a dead man, like a man's dead wife, unless he pays you." All right. Well, Sandman's trying to get his daughter to put herself back together. She can't do it. She dies.
Dumpty.
And so she dies. Spider-Man meets Craven. Mysterio has ejected or during his illusion, he sprayed a toxin into the air. Craven thinks this is just a wonderful thing. He says because some African warriors took toxic mushrooms, before a fight, because the element of fear, what is it? The element of fear will be on their side then. Okay, whatever. Well, Spider-Man just, he says, oh, okay. And he pulls his mask up and decides to inhale. And so he starts seeing the illusions, but he doesn't let them bother him anymore. Mm-hmm. Craven, on the other hand, sees a giant rhino. Which actually turns out to be Spider-Man just emptying 16 web cartridges on Craven and capturing him. So Sandman's daughter dies, and now the bells are no longer ringing. So the symbiotes start crawling up the tower towards Spider-Man. Sandman decides he's going to make his last stand. And he goes to the mayor and he says, "You have something I want." Okay. So now Spider-Man confronts Venom, fully expecting this to be his last battle, because he says, "Mary Jane, I'll be home with you soon," blah, blah. Venom goes into his motives, which basically was because Spider-Man brought him for this, because Spider-Man released him from the turd dispensing machine in Secret Wars #8.
I was lonely, Peter.
Yeah.
I was happy being a turd in a miniseries.
Yeah, I was, because when we do Secret Wars during the summer, boys and girls, yes. Yeah. It's a turd dispensing machine. But basically he says, "Oh, you brought me to this planet and abandoned me, and I was lonely. So I decided to have some relatives over for dinner." Okay. So, and then Peter has an illusion that he sees Mary Jane.
Yeah.
And this actually is a line I like. Okay. Let's see here where he, and I want to make sure I didn't write all the, I didn't.
I got it right here for you.
Because, and the one reason I like this is because sometimes a writer just captures something perfectly, and something in a way you never thought of before. And I remember Emma Stone, when she was Gwen Stacy, saying that, well, the difference between Gwen and Mary Jane was that Gwen loved Peter just because he was Peter, whereas Mary Jane only loved Peter because he was Spider-Man, which we know is not true. That she doesn't love him just because he's Spider-Man. But here is why she loves him. And I think that's
a pretty good line.
I think it is a terrific line. "Peter, I didn't fall in love with you because you could put your fist through Flash Thompson's skull. I fell in love with you because you could, but chose not to." Yeah. So it's not the superpowers. It's the man. Yeah. Spider-Man is the costume. The hero is Peter Parker. Yeah, and that's so, and again, it aggravated me because these Hollywood people aren't the brightest in the bunch, but it just bugged me to say that she said that, because that is absolutely not true. And anybody who is familiar with the Spider-Man mythos knows that is not true. Anyway, so Spider-Man, girds his loins.
Hold on. Go back and go get him, Tiger. You know what that means. Tiger. It's on.
Yep. And so, he decides to fight the symbiotes, and, we get about 3 or 4 pages of symbiote fights. But one of the things I thought was cool, which, again, if this were a movie and it were under the right hands, all the symbiotes, 100 symbiotes crawling up the tower to get the Spider-Man. And I thought that would be an awesome scene.
Is cool.
and so he decides to, but the Sandman comes in, when Spider-Man's fighting, and he gives Spider-Man the detonator that he took from the mayor, the detonator that the mayor was going to use to blow them all up if they disobeyed him. So he gives Spider-Man the detonator. He goes to distract the symbiotes, and then Spider-Man presses the button and blows up the tower and all the symbiotes in it. Yeah. The days pass. Jonah's on TV, saying that crime is back and the superheroes are back, and God bless them. And Peter, there's there's this bar that they're watching Jonah at, and a robber comes in. He gets snagged by a web. Peter says, "I'll see you sometime, Mary Jane, but not right now because I have responsibilities." And that
survived the explosion.
I didn't quite. I guess we gotta assume he jumped out through the detonator and
Spider-Man, he can
blew
survive
it out.
anything.
So, and that boy.
Final thoughts, JR. What do you think? What's a grade on this overall? Man, I'm mixed on it.
I wish I had. I tell you, I wish I had more time to talk about it because there's a lot more to unpeel.
Go ahead. Talk about it. What do you want to talk about?
No, I mean, it's like, well, of course, because I won't be spending all this time on fear itself. Trust me. But if this is one of those where you just shake your head at the wasted potential, that at the genesis, at the core, there's a good story to be told here. But, one, the writer lets his politics get in the way. And like I said, it's a very ill-defined world. You just... and maybe it's just me, the sci-fi fan who expects to see answers for everything. I mean, it's science fiction. It's like, like I always say, you shouldn't expect to learn science in science fiction, but you do expect there to be a certain logic, whether or not it's scientifically plausible. There should be a logic that you can follow. And there's just a lot of gaps missing in the story that explains this world and how it came to be. So, you don't get the idea. The idea is that Spider-Man is this lone hero, and he's coming back to save the day. But you're not allowed to get that feeling because, one, Peter acts like just a miserable old man. There's nothing heroic about him, really. He's not being heroic. He's not really the driver of the series. In fact, the heroes of this story are Jonah, Sandman, and his daughter. Those are the true heroes of the story. And and when that happens, the story has failed. I mean, when you think who's the hero of the story, when you think of, okay, who's the hero? Well, it's the little girl who stood there and took all those bullets,
What's your thoughts on nearly how old is it? 15 plus years old?
Yes.
It's known for that one line of what carried killed Mary Jane. That's the one thing. And if you think about it, that's probably true. I mean, if this was a real world, maybe people that are married and have sex with their partners, they could get cancer. I mean, it's a legit possibility. I don't know.
And I think Andrew, he actually said, before the story even came out, he wanted to address the what would happen to someone who actually married somebody with rape. So it's not, but it's just a gross line. And you know what?
The art is gross. The story's gross, but
the line is bad, but you know what? The line wouldn't quite have been as bad if the whole story wasn't bad. It's just, but you're already kind of sickened by the story. Again, there's a lot of gross, gruesome images, Doc Ock's rotting corpse, Mary Jane's rotting corpse, Peter climbing into Mary Jane's coffin, where he also,
it's definitely a downer. It's not a happy go lucky.
And, earlier, before, seeing Peter sitting there naked in it with his giblets hanging out, it's an ugly, ugly story. And like I said, again, Spider-Man is not the major hero of the story. He's not really, like I said, he's not the driver of the series. He's not like Bruce Wayne and Batman in Dark Knight Returns, for example, because Bruce is always in control. Bruce initiates the actions. Everything that happens because Bruce makes a decision. Spider-Man he's reacting to everything. Exactly. He's not really, until the very end, doesn't take control of the situation.
What's your grade on this? We didn't hear your grade.
Yeah. And again, without knowing what happened to the other heroes or everybody else, you don't, how you can't put yourself in a frame of mind that says, yes, Spider-Man is this lone hero, coming back to save the day. This has got to be a C- at the best.
I'm with you on that. D
it's
plus,
D
it's
plus
not
depending on
awful.
how I feel, but C- at the best. And it's a shame because somewhere, sometime, somebody will write a good Spider-Man Dark Knight Returns.
Harry Andrews
This ain't
came back and did an Amazing Fantasy miniseries about 2 years ago, and had Uncle Ben riding a dragon or something like that. We reviewed it on Satellites. I remember Kelly did it. Man, it's trippy too. And it had Black Widow and Cap and Spidey in it and Uncle Ben. It was weird.
Yeah.
Allegedly, Dark Reign 2 comes out in 2024 this year, so that'll be interesting to see. We'll have to do a sequel to this episode. We got a couple things.
And I may not get it. I used to buy all of that stuff, but I'm getting the main title, and that's about it. Yeah. So
we got Under the Horizon says, "Hey, everyone, always wanted to see JR talk about this one."
Well, your money's worth.
Milo, I've never read this story, but it sounds interesting. However, it might be because JR is going through it. Oh, there you go. Spider Girl says, "It's true, Milo. JR makes everything better. As a completionist, you have to read this, but it is difficult."
Thank you.
JR can make Art Attack interesting. He can make anything interesting.
Thank you.
Peter should have read his sex awareness comic.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, he should have read the one with the alien who dressed up as James Olsen or whatever, and James Olsen, the actor, not Jimmy Olsen. But
and Don, thank you for the super chat. I set alerts for this and didn't get it. Keep rocking. I'm glad you're with us. We got another episode coming up, Don.
Oh, we got 2 more. Yeah.
The death of Jean DeWolf coming up next. So we will be back in just a few minutes for that episode.
All right.